Every Halloween, Team Fortress 2 has the Scream Fortress events, with community-made cosmetics, maps, and game modes. And along with it are the Halloween packages, which each contain a random Halloween cosmetic that can't be traded, but it's the most free cosmetics you can get at one time, as you get one for each Halloween contract you complete, with a grand total of 52 Halloween packages to open. And it's my goal to get all 52 and open them all at the end of this video, so turn the lights down low and get comfy as I embark on the untold horrors known as the Halloween contracts. The primary objective, aside from the bosses, which I'll get to later, for each of these contracts is to collect 100 souls in each of the maps. And souls are collected in a variety of ways. One for kills and assists, pushing the payload, and being a part of the team that captures the points. And you get 4 more for actually capturing. But you can get more by ignoring the objective whenever you hear, "Fool, find the gargoyle!" as collecting a ghost gargoyle gets you 10 souls. Or 25 souls by killing a Halloween boss, such as the Horseless Headless Horseman, Monoculus, and Marasmus. Oh, and do not die before a soul reaches you, otherwise it's gone. The other objectives are completely optional. Although they give you more stars to unlock multiple contracts, they don't actually give you the Halloween package if you complete them, so they're basically useless. Going in, I was accidentally giving myself a challenge by doing these contracts solo, as doing this with friends like I did last year makes this much faster and easier, because any souls that they collect also counts towards your soul collection, which essentially multiplies how many souls you get per round. But surely it shouldn't take too long to complete all of these, right? And so I started my descent into the horrors of Halloween with my first pick, the Battle Engineer. Mainly because I love the playstyle, plus I just had some really nice cosmetics I just wanted to show off. I started by making some solid progress right off the bat, getting a really nice clean shot and a couple of assists, as well as capturing points. But things slowed down fast. The final point is super hard to capture without a push, so the previous point kept on getting recaptured. And I may not have the perfect 100% accuracy needed for the Widowmaker. So yeah, I might have been a little rusty after not touching this game for a while, so I swapped to my funny gun, so I wouldn't have to worry about ammo. And let's just say all these souls were mine. Nice! Until we lost, now with 8 souls too short. So for the final round I just swapped this heavy to take some damage and get those final souls I needed. And lost again, but I had enough souls to move on and start manually searching the maps I needed, which took a really long time. No joke, there was times where I queued for like 30 minutes and got nothing. I probably spent a few hours on matchmaking alone, but I had some souls to collect and I was willing to wait however long I was needed to move on from map to map. Moving on was Harvest Events, where I decided to go Sniper, because I always find myself practicing Sniper on Harvest anyway. And I kept getting wiped by mainly Scout, but occasionally Demo Knight. But then on to the next round. Okay, I had a strong start, but then the next round I ended up getting auto balance and practically went ignored the whole game. I even had some time to get this super cheeky kill. And the medic saved me. After getting a few last souls I needed, I swapped to heavy once again, but with the Natasha, which, for those who don't know, this somehow counts for killing scared enemies. Also, this weapon is just amazingly evil. It's perfect for getting kills and assists as it slows down an enemy, and it leaves them out in the open for just a little bit longer for either you or teammates to get that last hit. Next up was Hell Tower, and honestly did not know which class to pick to get lots of souls. So I chose Soldier, hoping the splash damage from his rocket launcher does help me rack up that soul count. Let's go! And I only achieved that once. So I swapped to Heavy. It should have been mentioned during a payload race map, nobody pushes the payloads. However, they would absolutely attack anyone who even dares move their payload an inch. So not only is this map painfully long to end, but the extra souls you get for pushing the payload are practically non-existent. Luckily, this map has soul gargoyles, which help out a whole bunch. I honestly would have lost my mind if this map didn't have any, as the souls I've collected were far and few in between. I also ended up killing my 99th skeleton on this map. Oh! But after a whole hour on this map, and an extra 15 minutes just to finish the round we were in, I was finally freed from this map. Surely it wouldn't last near that long on another map, right? Carnival of Carnage, otherwise known as the one with bumper cars. Luckily it's not too difficult to get souls while doing the bumper car section, and sometimes it can last a while too. So it's much easier to get souls on this map. I went with Pyro at first because I had a spooky spider cosmetic, but then I realized just how long this map is.
That's quite big.
And I realized I could probably snag a couple of sneaky kills with the sniper, because that's exactly what I did, while also enjoying some bumper cars at the end. And that map only took about 10 minutes, which is a much better and much needed change of pace. After that, we arrive at Man Manor, which I think is a pretty iconic map considering it arrived back in 2010. For this one, I decided to go as Scout, as I wanted to be in charge of helping capture the control points. And yes, I had a silly cosmetic loadout for Scout as well. He definitely was a perfect pick for collecting soul gargoyles quickly for an extra 10 souls. But with his low health, I ended up dying a lot. But it was no matter, as I was back where I needed to be in a matter of seconds. But back on defending, I went back to Sniper, as it's super satisfying getting kills across the map with a well-timed shot. Oh yeah, and the Horseless Headless Horseman is here too. We'll get to him eventually. And after eventually losing, with only 10 more souls to collect, I once again swapped to Heavy for the next match, figuring I can maybe take a few hits to get those last few souls.
Fool! Find the gargoyle!
Or the Ghost Gargoyle can literally spawn right in front of me. So after playing 6 more minutes and winning this time, I moved on to Ioduct. Just like Man Manor, this map also has a boss that spawns in every once in a while. Monoculus. Now this map is a relatively small King of the Hill map. Each team needed to hold their point for 3 minutes total. However, when Monoculus spawns, the point becomes inactive, and the fighting is disabled, and both teams are forced to fight Monoculus. Obviously this adds a bit of delay to finishing a round. Other than just teleporting around, he doesn't really last that long. Surely, there's not a worse boss that takes even more time to complete contracts on. Whenever Monoculus is defeated or leaves after a set time, the game continues like normal, and you can just maybe whittle that timer down a bit before he eventually respawns again. Luckily, when defeating him, he gives off a crazy amount of souls, so you don't take too long in this map. And lucky for me, I only had to do 1 round and it was time to move on to Ghost Fort.
No.
On second thought, let's go to a different map. Gorge Event! For this one, I mainly ran around as Scout and was just being a menace to everyone on the enemy team. Even got this poor engineer in his spawn. Heck, even the pre-game wasn't safe for my shenanigans. Hellstone was up next, and this is when I suddenly just performed super well as Heavy. Taking shots while also slowing down targets with Natasha was a really nice combo, and I definitely felt like I was getting a whole lot more kills on average at the very least. And let me tell you, I crushed it. Despite this being a payload map, where I would get more souls by being on the team pushing the cart, I was just out destroying the enemy team. Next was the Moonshine event, and I once again attempted the sneaky sniper idea, and to my surprise, I was almost unbothered getting kills and souls. Almost. I would switch to Scout a couple of times to grab the Ghost Gargoyles, but other than that, I just kept aiming where people were going to be and just shot in their general direction. Until I switched to Heavy, I started getting a whole ton of kills once again. I'm starting to see kind of a pattern here. Sunshine was up next, and hey, what do you know, that's the first map I played on to start off these contracts. And because I played as Battle Engineer last time, I decided to go as Battle Engineer once more. And I actually did it. Me alone. I was the one who captured the point. There were literally 2 scouts about to capture it, but it was me who did the capture. And boy, did it feel awesome. Although I did swap to Scout thinking I could collect souls a bit faster because I'm fast. I mean, I at least captured points twice as fast, so that's something, right? It's not like I can walk into the entire enemy team or something. I see how it is. But once again, with 20 more souls needed after a round, I switched to Heavy to take hits and take souls. And next up was another payload map, Gravestone. And of course, I wasn't on the blue team, meaning no free pushing payload points for me. But also, did you know that Marasmus is learning Japanese because he owes $12,000 to the Japanese mafia? You didn't? Well, he'll make sure you know that because he told us like 7 times in the same match. One thing I don't like about this map is the fact that these gargoyles are just really hard for me to get. I got close, but it was like defended as much as the payload was. I just want to move on to the next map. But of course, I was trapped on that map, listening to Marasmus tell us about how he learned Japanese for another 45 minutes. Next was Monster Bash, which is our first player destruction map. In this game mode, souls are a part of the map. Your goal is to collect and deposit more souls than the other team. If you do a good job at that, this game mode will be a cakewalk for your Halloween contracts. One thing this map has as a twist is that the team leader with the most amount of souls will be highlighted, meaning everyone on the map knows where they are. This easily paints you as a target for the enemy team to gang up on in hopes of stealing your collected souls. However, also it gives you incentive to protect your team leader so you won't risk losing souls for your team. Just be careful when depositing souls because there is always a soldier with crits he acquired from the pit's hidden area, and it's almost impossible to avoid each time because you never know where the soldier will appear from, but it will happen to you, I guarantee it. Now from this point, most of the maps just become really repetitive, as it's still collecting 100 souls on each map. Although there was one thing I was keeping from you: Halloween spells. These are randomly selected spells that do a variety of silly things. Can it be busted at times? Yeah, absolutely. But it's great for getting some extra kills in, as well as potentially turning the entire tide of battle. So I highly recommend you use them whenever you can, as well as figure out what they do just so you can use them super strategically. But getting back in the swing of things, playing as Natasha Heavy, you feel practically unstoppable. Until I landed on the map Erebus. With one control point right outside her spawn, the teams were incredibly unbalanced, and I couldn't figure out how to get past them at all. They had multiple vaccinator medics that were constantly healing their multiple soldiers, and multiple hidden sentries at the control point, a sneaky spy who would backstab us if we dare leave our spawn by 5 feet, and 2 snipers in the back. We didn't stand a chance. So after getting like a third of the souls I needed after playing for like 45 minutes on that map, I hit my friends with the old, "Hey, are you like doing anything right now?" and proceed to get the last remaining souls in about 15 minutes. Now my friend mentions that he barely got any kills, and that might be because we're on a different server that wasn't so incredibly imbalanced, but I just thought it really helped out and I was able to get help on a map that was giving me so much trouble. So yeah, in case it wasn't plenty obvious already, if you're going for Halloween packages, ask your friends for help. That or swap to a different server that isn't heavily unbalanced. It would go so much faster. Also after this, I stopped searching for the next map after the next and just searched for all available maps that I had access to on the contractor, because the search times were just becoming unbearably long. And of course, it takes me to the bosses tab right away, so I shall no longer hold off on talking about it. In the bosses section of the Halloween maps, you're only given one mission to complete per contract, and that is to defeat the bosses on their respective maps. And luckily it isn't too hard, as long as the bosses die instead of fleeing, you'll complete the contract, which sounds easy enough. Starting with Horseless Headless Horseman in Man Manor, which will just basically happen in a regular match, as he basically messes with both teams regardless if they're defending or attacking. Next up would be Monoculus on Ioduct. Get it? Ioduct. Same as Horseless Horseman, as long as he dies and doesn't flee, the only difference is now that he blocks the control point and there's a truce between the teams, which is basically telling everyone, there is a boss on the map, kill it to progress the game. It's not hard at all by any means, it just makes the match drag on for a lot longer than normal, considering it just stops the timer when he spawns in. But after that, there is Marasmus on Ghost Fort. Killing him on Ghost Fort is extremely easy. In fact, regular collecting 100 souls on this map is easy too, with how many souls he drops. Because he just won't stop spawning. Remember how Monoculus would stop the capture timer and perform a truce, basically forcing everyone to fight him just to continue the game faster? Well, imagine that, but each team's timer starts at 7 minutes. Being a King of the Hill map, players already want to fight to win, and defending for 7 minutes is definitely not easy. But whenever Marasmus spawns, that timer is frozen until you defeat him, and 7 minutes is plenty of time for him to spawn in multiple times. So be prepared to be on this map for a really long time. He is extremely annoying to deal with. After getting off Marasmus's wild ride, I made a visit to other maps and collected more souls and eventually found my way to one of the new maps, Slime. I did just about as great as I did on other maps. I actually found a great place to camp too. Plus, I thought these new Salman creatures on the map were just kinda silly. After destroying foes on a few more maps, I found a brand new one that I love, Perks. This is an arena type game mode where you only have one life and you have to make the most of it. However, like the map's name suggests, you get perks to help aid your team. Your team is given 3 different perks to choose from to help you out on each round, and it transitions into the following round as well, meaning you can stack your team if you choose your perks wisely. And oh boy, did I have fun on this map. I can't recommend this map enough. This one is way too much fun to mess around in. I actually ended up completing all 3 missions on this one too. And instantly following that one was the map Murky on the brand new game mode Zombie Infection. This game mode is incredibly stressful but tons of fun. 3 random people at the start of each round become a zombie, and their goal is to infect the rest of the human team. As a human, you only have 1 life and you respawn as a zombie. But when you're a zombie, you respawn as the zombies each time. The goal of the humans is to last until the time runs out, with an additional 8 seconds added per zombie infection, notified by a scary bell sound. Each zombie has their own unique abilities, and it's great to figure them all out, but when you figure out the strat on each map as the humans, it's basically just holding down the fort as long as possible. Still a little tricky though. Although I will give it the benefit of the doubt, it's a brand new game mode, and luckily there's still balancing patches with the game mode. But then again, that's wishful thinking about updates, as writing the script, even this year's Scream Fortress update wasn't even featured on the major updates page. But we can only hope that all of our problems will be fixed. Anyway, I played on some more maps, new and old, one of which was a bit glitched in the process with a giant pumpkin disappearing.
The pumpkin's gone. It's invisible.
And for my second to last map I needed to complete, I got Sandcastle, which is a little sandcastle of D. Groot Keep. How cute. I honestly loved the look of this map, and I'm surprised it was still in medieval mode. However, this time it has Halloween spells which are incredibly busted in this game mode. For those who don't know, medieval mode restricts your weapons to weapons you'd find closer to medieval times, so mainly only melee weapons with a select few ranged weapons. One thing that's pretty silly in this map is this poster that's clearly a reference to Germa, which I think is great. But anyway, I switched to Demo Man for this one because it's the only class I feel I can do well in this game mode. And after doing unsurprisingly awful with melee only, I remembered the Halloween spells to get me a little bit of an advantage, and I ended up distracting the entire enemy team that was supposed to be capturing the final points. And I got away with it a lot longer than I thought I would too. And after that, I had my final map, Devastation, which was another zombie infection map. So I ended up just chilling with everyone else for an easy contract, and then I finally had all 52 Halloween packages in my possession. The last thing I needed to do was to open them up with my friends.
Dang, the first non-Halloween restricted item.
The glove! We got the Lich from Adventure Time.
Fall.
No, it's like Hooper.
Yeah, that's what happened after Sly 4.
For those curious, my most expensive unboxes were the Haunted Templar Spirit and the Chicken Keeve, which were both around 26 keys, which is approximately $45, I think. I'm not 100% certain on my math. And assuming all those were actually tradable, it'd go for approximately 207.59 keys, or $362.30. I even got a few untradeable Halloween crates too, so if you want to see me open those up in a different video, be sure to subscribe and leave a comment. But with that all said and done, I completed all the Halloween contracts and opened all the Halloween packages. Would I do it again? Probably not.